Okay, hello everybody. Today we're going to read our new story together, The Day the Rolettes Got Their Moxie Back. And if we look over here at the genre, we see it's a historical fiction. So, as we know, a fiction is a story that is made up. It's not a real story. However, a historical fiction means that this story is based on true events. So think about how this is kind of similar to a realistic fiction, except there is actual events, something has happened for this story to be based on, okay? So the characters or the setting or the theme of the story or the events are something that actually happened. And then it's been made into a fictional story to make it more enjoyable and more interesting for the reader. Okay, so bear that in mind as we read this together. And before we start, let's have a quick look down here at the essential question. So we spoke about this last time, and it was, how do shared experiences help people adapt to change? So how is an experience shared? So when you go through an event with somebody else, or you are helping somebody with something, how does this help you adapt and improve to change? So in this story, we're going to read about how a family comes together. So how they work together, essentially, during a period of great hardship in the United States. So hardship, the clue is here, hard. This means hard times. So maybe they have some problems or something like that. They go through a bit of a tough period together. Okay, so let's have a look here at the story. It says, sometimes the thing that gets you through hard times comes like a bolt from the blue. So this just means that it comes quickly and out of the blue. So from the blue, this is so out of nowhere. So it comes as a bit of a surprise. Okay, that's what my older brother's letter was like. Traveling across the country from a work camp in Wyoming, it was 1937, and Ricky was helping to build facilities for a new state park as part of President Roosevelt's employment program. So we can assume Ricky is the character's older brother. And the way they're talking, they're using words like my. This means this is a first-person story. So one of the main characters is telling this story. Through the program, though the program created jobs for young men like Ricky, it hadn't helped our dad find work yet. So here we have our first problem, our first conflict. So it looks like the main character's dad is unemployed. He doesn't have a job. I imagine Ricky looking up at the snow-capped mountains and sparkling skies, breathing in the smell of evergreens as his work crew turned trees into lumber and lumber into buildings. So it looks like her brother is a lumberjack. A lumberjack is an old job, though there may still be some now, where you cut and use wood to build things. It almost made an 11-year-old weakling like me want to become a lumberjack. So just like I said here. So the main character here is an 11-year-old and weakling, meaning they are not strong. So a lumberjack is classically a strong person job because you're lifting and throwing heavy materials and wood all day long. Back in New York City, in our New York City apartment, the air smelled like meatloaf and cabbage. Dad sat slantwise in his chair by the window, obviously trying to catch the last rays of sunlight rather than turn on a light. So here it looks like her dad is trying to save money by not using electricity. So he's trying to use the sunlight instead of turning on his lights. My older sister Ruth and I lay on the floor comparing the letters Ricky had sent us. Surely, Ricky says, they had a talent show, and he wore a grass skirt and did a hula dance while playing the ukulele. Ruth reported with delight. I'll bet he was the cat's pajamas. So this means like very cool, very popular, very good. It'd be swell to have our talent show, I replied. Should I start sewing grass skirts? Mum asked from the kitchen, which was just the corner where someone had plopped down a stove next to a sink and an icebox. So here they're talking about how small their kitchen is. Now come set the table. Dinner's always ready, almost ready. So here we have a bit of a background information on this family. It looks like they don't have much money. They live in a small apartment. There's two sisters living together with their parents, and they have an older brother, Ricky. So my older sister is Ruth, which means Shirley is the main character. Okay, on to the next page. Dad stayed where he was, sullen and spent. So he's not in a good mood. He's tired, which is spent, and sullen is kind of in a bad mood. So maybe he's a little bit sad, depressed, upset, something like that. Any jobs in the paper? Mom asked, her voice rich with sympathy. So she's trying to be positive. She's trying to help her husband. Dad shook his head no. He had worked as an artist in the theater for years, but most productions were still strapped for cash. Dad sketched posters for shows, then did the green light. Then that did get the green light, just to keep his skills sharp. He even designed posters for Roulette's Follies, with Ruth and me depicted in a watercolor costumes. So depicted means they are drawn, they are pictured in this watercolor costume. For dinner, Mum served a baked loaf of whatever ingredients she had that worked well together. Again, going back to the problem of not having a lot of money. So just whatever ingredients they had in the kitchen is what they would make the food with, rather than buying specific ingredients to cook something. From the reddish color, I could assume that she had snuck in beets. I guarantee you'll like these beets, she said, reading my frown. So let's assume Shirley doesn't like beets. It's beet loaf, the meatless meatloaf, she sang as she served up slices. So the way her mother is acting, she's very upbeat. She's trying to be positive even though times are hard. Ruth fidgeted in her seat, still excited about the talent show, though calm on the outside. Inside, I was all a Twitter too, meaning that she's very excited. Over the next week, Ruth and I practiced our Hawaiian dance routine. Our parents worried about heating bills as cold weather settled in. Going back again to the earlier problem where her dad was trying to save money on electricity, they're now worrying about the bills to heat their home as it's starting to get cold. One Saturday, my father decided to grin and bear it and grab some hot coffee at the local soup kitchen. So a soup kitchen is where people go if you are homeless or you have no money, and then you can get things for free. So it seems like her dad has finally accepted that he might need some help, and he goes to get some hot coffee at their local soup kitchen, where he had hoped to hear about available jobs. Ruth and I begged to go along. Since the kitchen offered donuts and hot chocolate on weekends, he agreed. Most everyone in line was bundled up against the cold. Many of us had to rely on 2 or 3 threadbare layers. So this is just showing us how cold it is. They're having to wear 3 layers. Like many other men, Dad bowed his head as if in shame. So her dad is holding his head down because he's feeling shame about having to accept this free food and accept the help. The line moved slowly. Bored, Ruth began practicing her dance steps. I sang an upbeat tune to give her some music. Around us, downturned hats lifted to reveal frowns becoming smiles. So now these people in line that are bowing their heads, they're feeling shame. These 2 girls are dancing and singing, and people are starting to smile and start to show their faces and show that they are supportive. Soon, folks began clapping along. Egged on by the supportive response, Ruth twirled and swayed like there was no tomorrow. So like there was no tomorrow means that you are doing something with lots of energy. Those girls sure have moxie. This is another word for rhythm. You have a lot of rhythm, you're good at dancing, something like that. Someone shouted. They've got heart all right, offered another. Why, they ought to be in pictures. With performances like that, I'd nominate them for an Academy Award, a woman called out. Those are my girls, Dad declared, his head held high. So this means, head held high, you're proud. So just here where he is feeling shame, he's now feeling proud because of his 2 daughters. Everyone burst into applause. For those short moments, the past didn't matter and the future blossomed ahead of us like a beautiful flower. I couldn't wait to write Ricky and tell him the news. So this story is about how the family are supporting each other. They're going through a very hard time and they're finding enjoyment in the smallest things, and they're all trying to help one another. So what I want you to do is think about the ways that this family help each other adapt to the times. So how are they changing because of the situation that they're in? And then think about a time when others have maybe helped you or you have helped them adapt to a new situation. And how does this experience compare to those of the Roulette family? And then let's go to our workbooks and complete our comprehension questions on the storytime page. And that's everything for today. I'll see you all very soon.